and so on. So it's different from sociology of education or the political science study or the study of education in political science. But when we have much more time, I would very like to introduce the political way to deal with the education in social development. For example, how has the content of education in Taiwan changed during the process of democratization? How the political development changes what you should learn. You learn much more about Taiwan than I did. You know? The people of my age studied much more about China than Taiwan. But the people of your age have studied less China and more Taiwan. It's a result of political change. And we should treat the phenomenon from the perspective of political science. So when you talk about education and social development, there are many perspectives should be included. But because we are a full English course, I don't think that if I give you not just the six central concepts, but 12 or 20, I was worried about it. I think that would be too much for you. So I omit many conceptualization in the political field, in the communication theory, in the psychological theories. But that means that does not mean that you have only this branch. You can have psychology, you can have political science, you can have economics, and so on. Or, very interestingly, anthropology. It will be very interesting. When you observe a classroom from the perspective of anthropology, you know what anthropology is? Yeah. Have anyone know how to speak it in Chinese? Anthropology.
文化人类学。
Omit culture, just relation, anthropology. Anthropology is very interesting when you observe. Have anyone have seen the film by Scarlett Johansson? She played, not Lucy in Taipei, she played a role in a novel, but in the very well family in Manhattan. And she was a student in anthropology. So she used the perspective of anthropology to observe the family, how they teach their children. Have you seen that film? Oh? Have anyone seen that film? The Chinese title should be 豪门保姆日记. None of you? Very interesting. Because that's a so-called anthropologist eyes. And there are many other examples. Okay, and so on. And even they can combine with each other and make the applied branches much more. For example, we have discussion globalization. So you can combine the development study and globalization. And it's very interesting because today when you talk about development, you must talk about globalization. You talk about globalization, you must talk about development. So is there really true study? Okay. And also gender study. It's very, very interesting. When we talk about this, and we talk about that, in the before, since the Second War after, to the perhaps 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and let us say 30 years ago, from 60 years ago to 30 years ago, in Taiwan, there are many girls to be asked to abandon their future development in schooling, in university, because the family did not have so many resources to support two children entering the university. So the sister would be abandoned and the brother can enter the university. Have you heard of that? But curiously, that many sisters has proved themselves to be better university students than their brothers. But they didn't have even the chance to enter the university. But I think in recent 20 years, perhaps the situation has been changed. One reason is that everyone should go to universities. So everyone should enter and study in the university. That would be a common sense. That's different from the early times. You know that after World War II, there are just one university in Taiwan, and at first, four universities. The government has upgraded 3 other technical universities to the general university and make it 4. At first, just 4 universities in Taiwan. Now we have more than 160. I remember 168. But the number would be reduced. We all know that. Would be and should be sharply reduced. And economically speaking, 1/3 of the universities should be closed. But we all know that would not be the vision and the fact, because no one can suffer and survive from such closure. That's too much. No one knows how much it will be closed. But since we have so fewer and fewer students, and from 2016, 15, 16, and we have 2 days students for the universities. Okay, and we have discussed about the liberalization. It's also connected with the democratization in Taiwan, and it also connected with economic concerns, and it also concerns with the education reform. So it's very, very difficult to see the issue in education and development just from one branch. First point, and we should observe education, since you are students from the Department of Social Development. You should observe education from the development studies perspective, and it is not just one perspective. It is all the perspectives applied here. So you may choose your concern, you choose your perspective from psychology, political science, economic, anthropology, and so on. And you can combine your education research with, for example, sociology and cultural study, for example, development study and gender study, and so on. And you can discuss reform, educational reform in the policy study and in the political development and in the economic development. So there are many, many possibilities. So let me remind you that the difference between this course and sociology of education, the difference is not that the name or the concept you apply, but how you make your framework, how you make your conceptualization. That's the point. Okay, let us begin today's presentation, please. We have 2 teams. Which one? Okay, you first.
Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about credentialism in Taiwan and how the Taiwanese college student get a job. And in my talk, I will talking about, this is our group member. I'm Louis Wang, Joseph Pen, Eddie Huang, John Lee. And in my talk, I'm talking about what is credentialism. I will introduce for you. And according to Wikipedia, credentialism is a reliance on formal qualifications or certifications to determine whether someone is permitted to undertake a test or to speak as an expert. And An employer may require a diploma, professional license, or academic degree, say, for a job which can be done perfectly well applying skills acquired through experience or informal study. And this seems very reasonable. If your boss want to know who you are and what you got, so the quickest way is to see your resume. And your highest education level is the first thing he or she will look. So where are you graduated from? This is the first thing that your boss will focus on. And but there are two interesting problems of credentialism in Taiwan in the workplace. First thing is the name not match the realities. I'm going to talk about two different ways to see. One is we can see a lot of work from newspaper, and but maybe this work just technique work. It just need a typing paper, picking up some phone calls, or operating some little math, something like that. But it needs a man graduated from university. This is very interesting. And this one is because we know at the past time, university is very hard to enter it. But in this time in Taiwan, we just like newspapers say, we only got 3 points and we can easily go into a university and to be a university student. So for the workplace, they are hard to know. You are a university student, but maybe you are not so just like the past time they university students as well as them. And then in the different ways under supply, it's very interesting is because from this time, many people are university students. So because we are university students, so we don't want to do the labor work. We don't want to be the workplace to build a house, something like that. So nobody wants to do the physical labor. So it makes a phenomenon is that we have a high proportion of the unemployed, but we still introduce foreign workers from other countries like Indonesia or Thailand or these countries. So it makes the labor of working population and this population the so-called blue collar press against white-collar work areas, and it makes the supply and demand of Taiwan workplace even worse. And this is my part.
This part will introduce the interactions between credentialism and society. As more and more employers are demanding post-secondary credentials for basic entry-level positions, many investigators are deeply concerned about whether post-secondary credentials are actually needed in the contemporary labor market. There are at least two interpretations of the dramatic increase in educational attainment in parents. The first is that it represents a natural response to the changing nature of work, including the implementation of new technologies that require high-skilled labor. The second perspective asserts that educational attainment is built in part by credentials, whereby credentials are instrumentally valuable to workers. The assumption that wages are insensitive to performers is not only intuitive, unpalatable, this is not in accordance with the evidence regarding the prominence of explicit performance path, nor with the estimate of the speed of employers' learning. Such outputs conjunct wage contrast effectively reduce any asymmetric information between a firm and worker, and therefore, in contrast to the standard signaling mechanism, credentials play no role in inference belief within a worker-firm relationship. Instead, credentials play a role in shaping the composition of co-work groups, thereby exerting influence on the worker-co-worker relationship.
My part is how to change this education system for credentials. The government have 4 policies. The first is pension of higher education. The second, normalization of teaching. The third, improved entrance examination system. The fourth, child education. First, expansion of higher education make every people get knowledge who have bags ability. The policy also enhances people's educational needs and career planning. And the policy also now there are many colleges or university in Taiwan originally convinced the government would make Chinese students better, but now more problem in this policy. And the second, normalization of teaching. Because many students and their parents are worried about their grade, they find many ways to help them. Goes to primary school is one of many ways, but in society, not every student could go to primary school, which would cost many money. This phenomenon would create one part of student pressure. The government would improve this phenomenon. They propose policy, normalization of teaching. This policy strengthens school education. Students are educated on the average. In addition to this, Ministry of Education controlled the primary school. Student was not influenced. And the third, improve entrance examination system. Entrance is important thing for students in Taiwan. So enter the best school is student goal. Because enterprise means man who is graduated from good school. Educational background is the most important thing in Taiwan society. How to improve this result? How to improve this situation? The government changed the rules that entrance exam. Many students not only study hard but also use in other ways can enter the university or college. And the fourth, short education. So what is short education? Short education is in Taiwan is high school system being divided into high school and vocational school. The people who get to the right school, the policy is good for not only students, but also for the society.
I won't say it's credential-based, just draw lessons. First is Japan. Japan is very consistent with credentials. The businesses are very pay attention to the interviews, graduation from which school, whether the profession. Some students retake only for good college. They afraid that they can enter a good company after grade. Second is which? Sorry. Rather, there are 16 students commit suicide every day in India. We can know India's credentials is harder than Japan from this. Most people is farmers, so people believe only study to get rid of poverty. In movie street ideas, we can know many people have faced this phenomenon. Even they can change it right now. And I say, and with the opening of China to expand their credentials, also increased awareness. China's credentials is different than other countries. In fact, after the opening of the society, stratification and diploma doctrine also have relations. China's society can be divided into three classes. First, political and administrative elite. Second is entrepreneur. Third is farm and worker. The first class uses diploma to decide position and state. Second class to see how much money do you have and decide your stand in group. It's not every country like Japan in Asia. Korea is start to change before Korea are very much focused on diploma, but in recent years, Westernized education changed this phenomenon. Companies began to focus on professional competence rather than academic. Thank you.
Okay. Not this one. Where's yours? There are two kinds of problems, and I would like to discuss with the team. At first, the structure and problematic of your paper, I don't quite sure what's your point, because you have talked about how the Taiwanese college student get the job. So it seems that you are talking about is the credential really functional, effective, usable in labor market. It seems to be that. But you talk about how to change the education system, but not from the perspective of the labor market or from how to get a credential or how to get rid of credential. So I don't quite really sure what's your point. And since you have still 2 weeks, so I would not ask you to change your old framework, but I try my best to correct it slightly to make the diverse argumentation closer to each other. So, the first part so at first you introduce what credentialism is and what's the specific phenomenon in Taiwan. Okay, that's okay. But here, the name does not match the reality. I don't think what you have argued should be put this way. Not grammatically mistake. I did not mean that. I mean that when you talk about some job, ex-university diploma, but it is unnecessary. Okay, so the reality is that the worker does not need diploma, but the employer asks that. So you think that there are no such mention. But curiously is that from this way, you define credentialism as a very practical and realistic application of the naming and the named. But when we talk about credentialism, and we talk about credentialism as a problem in education and especially in East Asia, we don't define it simply application. We define it as an appreciation you must have, no matter how, no matter what. We define it that way. So that should be not about mention. The naming, we should argue that in the naming there are much more derivative meanings, knowing newly born meanings, and that is complicated naming. That is not just a simple naming. Okay, you must what skill, what job, what diploma. Okay, skill, job, skill, credential. They are all, and they should be matched to each other. That would be a simple definition and a simple belief. But many does not believe in that. That's the problem. Okay, but it means about matching. And secondly, the undersupply, it should be called in academic, the so-called overqualification. You are qualified to do this job when you graduated from high school, and you are already qualified, but you did not go to labor market. You entered university. And so your qualification after 4 years it should be higher than 4 years ago. So when you do that job, you are overqualified. Okay, the proper term is overqualification. You are overqualified. Okay. And the second part, okay, when you talk about credentialism and credentialism in Taiwan, and you focus on how the credentialism is defined mainly about the skills, and secondly, there are such overqualification. And the first is almost the same. You are talking about the same thing, the overqualification. Okay, and that has something to do with labor market, right? So interactions between credentialism and society, it is not a proper expression in English. You should consider to change it. But I don't have the time to correct your English. I just remind you. It should be, this is from your daily usage of Chinese, but in English, we don't speak that way. Okay. And here is almost about the labor market, the problem of labor market. And you have talked about two interpretations. The first is the changing nature of work. Here you have one serious problem between three parts of your paper. Because here you are talking about the changing nature. So high skill is asked. High skill is asked. But here you talk about overqualification. And at the part 3, you talk about the enterprise, the employer asked that you must, you should be graduate from certain universities. Not high skill, but certain universities. Not just as university graduated, but from certain universities. So it cannot be reconciled in one paper. When you talk about overqualification and that the high skill required for the changing nature of work, they don't match each other, you know. If we really have many new jobs in labor market, and all these new jobs need high qualification, need credential, diploma, license. If so, we would not have the problem of overqualification. Overqualification is they are just slightly changed. When you talk about such a way, okay, this is high skill, and this is low qualification, and this is the middle. Okay, if the labor market one is this way and changed to this way. And we need more highly trained, skilled worker, right? So this is your first interpretation here. But our education is, okay, this is labor market, and this is the educational system one. And okay, we have as many as you need. Okay, perfect. And but now we have I think that should be much more. You know, this is over qualification. What should and what should these people do? Understood? Okay. What should these people do? They are not needed in the high-skilled labor market. We have enough workers, and they must apply for this kind of work. But this kind of work does not need their credential. So this is over qualification. And this is perfect. Okay. And this is okay when the labor market too. And so we need a new education and must be just as this way. We need a new education. We must expand our universities and so on when we have such a labor market. Remember, all these are economic model. Education is not necessarily follow the economic model, because we talk about education as the beliefs, ideas, and that means that education is not just for the labor market. They have their own value. We have talked about this, but when you talk about enterprise and labor market, and we follow the economic logic, there are problems here. So how do you realize your problem? And I think you should. Okay, this is all. You know what I have done at first? I tell you that follow your logic about labor market and education, and there are problems. But I remind you, in addition to the explanation, I remind you that all these explanations is just economic model. But from another perspective, education, higher education, for example, are not supposed to be served to the labor market. Education is not the servant of enterprise. Remember, university is not the servant, but the servant of enterprise. The master said, I would like to have some apple, and the servant give him some apple. The master said, I would like to have some pork, and the servant served a dish of pork to him. That's the master and servant. Education is and should not be the servant of enterprise, of economic system. But economically perspective is useful just as sociological perspective, just as psychological perspective. They are useful. We must notice the economic dimension in education, in educational reform, and so on. Okay, and first, your argumentation. And second, remind you that economic model is that. And third, back to my substantial suggestion. Okay, my suggestion is you should, in your paper, 4 parts, you should emphasize that credentialism is a very complicated. It's very complicated phenomenon. So, originally, it should be the expression of your skills and as a reference to your employers. It should be, originally speaking, so. But in Taiwan, we have some developments such as overqualification, such as the new hierarchy building, hierarchical system. So certain universities are much valued than the other. Okay, we have hierarchical educational system. So although we have such system, but only this little small part is considered to be really highly qualified. So we have a hierarchical system. And you may explain in your own 4 parts the phenomenon. Okay, and you can still talk about overqualification. You can still talk about it should be the match between the two. You can still talk about that some enterprise ask just the diploma from certain university. But in each part, you should not admit, you should remember to talk the credentialism in Taiwan as a very complicated system with a hierarchical system of university. That would be much more proper. And the second, the instrumentally valuable by the workers is a tautological argumentation. It means A is important to B because B think A is important. Have I explained anything? No. You know what I mean? So the instrumentally variable to workers should be much more detailed, explained. For example, you may talk about nobody knows why, but all the enterprise just want university graduated. So when I want to get a job, I must enter a university at first. And no matter how I think credential or university education is, I don't like it or I think it is useless, that's not the point. Because it is just that you must learn to read and write. And so I entered the elementary school. So now university is just as valuable as elementary school. So I must enter a university. And the instrumentally variable means when it has much more than what I say A is important to B because because B think A is important. Besides that, when you talk about instrumentally variable, you are arguing that there are nothing else, or the other factors are not so important. For example, many students in university, they do not calculate very precisely what she or he would do with the license, the certificate, the diploma they got she or he get in the university. The most of you do not calculate so precisely. You just follow, okay, people say so, parents say so, all the society says so, so I follow the same way. And in this situation, credentials are not instrumentally valuable to you, right? When we say, okay, just 20% students follow the others' way to enter the university, but 80% students have their own calculation. If so, you are right. You emphasize the instrumental dimension of the valuation. But I think the instrumental dimension is not so important role in our discussion. I used too much time. Okay. And the wage connection, that is too detailed. You must consider this part, how to integrate in this paper. And okay. And this is okay, the flow. Asymmetric information, that's a problem because I don't quite understand why here is the asymmetric information. Because the employers knows from which university you are graduated. They have the information, right? And what information do you want to have? The which university your boss is graduated? That's not a big problem, okay? So what's the asymmetric? It means I got more, you got less. Or I got less, you got more. That means asymmetric. So I don't quite understand why a firm and a worker, they have the asymmetric information. Maybe not about credential, but about wage. You don't know how employee in this branch, how much does the employee earn each month. You don't know how the employees in other companies, how much do they earn, you don't know. Maybe you need that, the wage information. Or you don't know how your colleges, your colleagues, how much do they earn, you don't know, maybe. And so I don't know what do you mean worker-firm relationship and credentials. I am not sure. So what does credentials play a role in a so-called enterprise culture or enterprise atmosphere? Maybe you should talk about, so I don't know if you want to talk about not labor market equals opportunity, but after that, in the enterprise, in the company, how credential plays a role. Maybe you would like to talk about that. I'm not quite sure. And by the, okay, we don't have much time. There are too many issues. For example, the child education, the diverse possible. There are many countries use this kind of system, and they don't have the same problem as Taiwan. For example, the most successful variable system, the dual system in Germany, that's totally different. So that's not when you talk about maybe, okay, and here, higher education, but compulsory education is not part of higher education. So there are some missing link here. We are talking about compulsory education or higher education. That's a problem. And the scores is better. Grade, maybe you are 5th grade or 6th grade. And About the cram school has much broader questions. So you may not have the opportunity to discuss cram school, but to emphasize the competition in getting better scores, that would be enough. And that the main actor is not the government, but the university. You know, in Tsinghua University, there would be less and less each year the students, less and less students to enroll in the university according to their scores, especially Tsinghua University. They use the application to substitute the scores. So that's the problem. Why our system does not function this way. I need just some few sentences to explain that. And about Japan, India, and Korea. Okay, Japan and India is not. India is much more complicated than you have think, because in India the hierarchical system there is much hierarchical than in Taiwan. So it's a problem. And China, do you, both of you agree that the three parts, where have you got this? I don't think today's China should be understood this way. I don't think so. This may be at the first 10 years of the open policy, but now I don't think it is precisely the way. But you don't have to describe the social structure. We don't describe Taiwan's social structure. We don't describe Japanese social structure. You don't need to describe the social structure. You have to describe how the credentialism developed there, how they treat credentials. That's the point. And the next one is Korea. Are you sure Korea companies are going to focus on professional competence rather than academic? Are you sure? Where have you got this? I'm very curious, because in Korea there are much severe competition than in Taiwan. Seven years ago, there are trendy drama called that Gangnam Model. You have seen that? Oh, you have seen a lot of Korean trendy drama, because that was not so famous. Gangnam Model, not the Uncle Gangnam, but the same Gangnam. You know what is Gangnam? In the song, the strong man also called Gangnam. The Koreanish, Changnam and Jiangnan is the same pronunciation. Jiangnan is the most richest area in Seoul. So in the Gangnam Model, it means that You, as a mother of a high school boy and girl, you have to move to Jiangnan district and to make your children to attend to a special Korean school, not high school, but Korean school, to get better chance to enter the most famous university. And in order to get into that Korean school, and many things happened and so on. That's trendy dramas. That's nothing to do with us. But the competition in Korea is very, very serious and severe. There are no less than in Taiwan and in Japan. So I am not sure. And also, the westernized education change is not a quite proper term. What do you mean westernized? Now we use English. This is a full English course. This should be the most westernized course. But westernized is not a good expression because all our educational system, the modern educational system, are from Western, not from Eastern. When you talk about, for example, Korea, do you know Samsung? Samsung's cooperation with a certain university, Senjunguan Feihun. That is an old name of an old school. But now it is a modern university according to each modern university standard. And Samsung has much cooperation project with this university. That's another story. But now you cannot compare the modern form with its ancient form. It's different, totally different. Okay. I have used too much time. I'm very sorry. You should have at least 5 minutes pause that you deserve it. OK， 来了，休息5分钟。对不起，讲太多，前面不应该讲一大串。OK， 下一组准备，然后5分钟后，我先把这。
12 years compulsory education reform was promoted more than 20 years. Go through several change of government and the ministers of education. So the version of each period has a lot of difference in terms of policy. And the fact is, in addition to the current version, the rest version set the direction or other details. But all the presentation will end up with nothing definite. Okay, the earlier version was in 1983. The Ministry of Education.
Back to. So the goal and objective. Okay. Okay, please go on.
The earlier version was in 1983. The Ministry of Education planning to implement extend to vocational education-based national education program. And the current version was in 2011 January. The President proposed to start up the 12 years compulsory education reform. Predicted all the high school students to have free tuition and most of them can admission without examination.
And the transport of 12 years compulsory education, we have five top of this plan. And first, the partition of the school. The plan is divided 15 school districts rather than administrative area. But we cannot make sure that the number of students in every school district are average. And second is the ballot. If the number of applicants in one of school districts were more than the number of announcements, students had to compare their performance, and the last way is ballot. And projects that students have to compare, like fitness or service learning, etc. But it is not fair for some vulnerable groups. But by the way, no one of us wants to be decided our future through the ballot. And the third is it's missing, sorry. And the third is the special way to have the students, like many private schools, in order to make sure the quality of students. So they hold this way to enroll students, and many students in order to make sure they're right. So it will have lots of students choose to study private schools. And the fourth is the scoring way. It had carried out in Taiwan for a few years, but it still have it controversial up to now. Even though such of us have used this scoring way, we still have a lot of questions about it. And the last one is 12 years compulsory education has been discussed at least 10 years. But even though this plan has been determined to carry out since 2014, but there are still many opinions from parents and scholars. So we think it is one of downfall of 12 years compulsory of education. The PPT is missing, so I just introduced by myself.
The next part of the downfall, once again.
The last part is like my second PPT is missing. And there has the other three parts, and one is about private schools, and the fourth one is the scoring way, 量尺计分, and the last one is the opinion from parents and scholars.
Okay.
Okay, my part is the state of the 12 years comprehensive education reform. And is that the student can study in the area where they live. It means that the students can study in the area which the government creates every city or country in which area, and students don't need to go far away from where they live. And Second, they can let the students learn more, not just from books. Students have so many ability to learn. Many in the past, many students learn the ability just from the books, but now in this reform, students need to learn more from not just from the book, just like they need to learn the sports and the 100. In the Chinese means they have need to 有干部经验，然后他们要重视体育项目。And the many areas have different grading levels, and Mormons become one of grading levels. That's the two things I think are not really good for the students, because in many areas that has different grading level. That means different area students have different grading level. That might make them have many different abilities, or they might then make them have any difference from their abilities they learned in the past 3 years during their education. And moderate in Chinese means 品德 or 就是我们所谓的超性 becomes a grading levels. That means the students need to have their moderate to be scored, not just a way we can. I don't think it's a way we can need to have a score in the grading level. And it's all my part.
The missing one.
Yes.
Okay, but about this. And okay, you finished your presentation. And at first, I think I do not have to spend much time as comment on the other team as so much, because I have already talked about 12-year compulsory education reform before. So I think all of you should have some idea what I am talking about. And about your presentation, your paper, I suggest that you need because the structure, remember I have told you that the structure is your team's goal, and your individual part is your individual, bring you your individual goals, but your structure brings you structural goals. And this structure, there is a weak point in this structure. The conclusion, the next part, status, it should not be a conclusion. You should try to make it another way. For example, the current discussion or the current dispute and the possible issue or the newly changed version different from all before, and should be presented in the lesson. Status is not quite a proper word, and I think that you, just as many other teams, you seem to write your paper in Chinese and try to translated into English. So there are many problems in expression. And but this team is different from all the others because you have many English resources. We have English paper in Taiwan. You can just read the English paper, and also the English version of the website of Ministry of Education. There are many standard expression in this topic. The other team, they don't have such resources, but you have the Ministry of Education and also the English paper, English newspaper in Taiwan. And you can read them and you can get the right expression there. So at first you talk about the idea and the goals, objective, and all the version, evolution. And I think the three parts are too much for the content because the reform is already in practice. So how should it be practiced, and what's the problem should be the main points instead of the goal, the version, the evolution, and so on, the definition. I think it is not quite so, but you have still 2 weeks. I think time is enough for you to correct your structure. So, at first, the idea and the goal, it should be at the same page. And the evolution and the versions is the same. And the third, how the practice and what's the problem and the current disputes. The current disputes. It should be this way. How it is practiced. How should junior high school students enter senior high school? How it is possible? How it is to be done, and what's the problem, what's the platform, and the change after the first year. Okay, after the first year is much more precisely after first year. There are many changes, especially from the so-called special education. The special recruiter student. Do we still have the special recruiter system? So far as I remember, now we do not have anymore. Except Tainan maybe still want to struggle. 建中 went the Taipei First Girls High School has already abandoned that. And all the other elite high school all abandoned the idea to have examination just on her own. One high school, one examination to choose his special talented students. No, we don't have. In practice, in theory, we have it. And in high school, we have the course. But for entrance, for the admission, there are no such a thing as the first year. So the change and the current dispute. You know, have you read the newspaper? Have you read the news on the internet? Our new Taipei mayor, Dr. Ke. Does anybody here sitting here, knows what has he said to the Minister of Education? The current dispute is very, very serious. It's the turning point of this educational reform. Do you know what I am talking about? Because in practice, have any one of you realized how the system worked? How the system works? Do you know? Examination free. It's a very, very, I don't know. If you are a company, you would be sued and go to jail. You know what? If you talk about your product is sugar free or fat free, okay? But instead you have so much sugar and so much fat as all the other products. Perhaps you would go to jail. But our examination free are full of examinations. That's not examination free. But how is the system work? Because examination free, so we call this one not examination. Because it is not an entrance examination, it's just when you leave the junior high school, you should make some test to know how have you done in junior high school. Are you okay? Are you not really okay? Or are you very, very good? So we have just 3 alphabets to label. A, good. B, okay. C, you need some improvements. And such labeling could easily to express it not as examination. This is not examination. Of course, just A and B and C. This is not examination. So we don't have examination. But when you want to enter in the high school, and everyone want to enter in the same high school, and you have made a mistake. We talk about 50 school district, and the same district, many want to enter the same school. It seems like we do have just 15 high school in Taiwan, in your Mount. That's the problem here. We have just 15 school. You know what? The expression is wrong. We have very large district. That should not be so large. In Japan, each district, there are only 3 to 7 high school. So if you want to apply to this high school, you can join into the entrance examination. Have anyone here, as me, have read the novel of a Japanese novelist about the high school entrance examination? Anyone of you? A Japanese novel, a detective novel, and about the competition, the pressure, and just one high school, a very one special local high school. So each district has 3 to 7 high school. But how many high school in Taipei? And Taipei is just one district, you know. Taipei is just one district. So nearby, do you know what means nearby? When you lived in Shilin, Tianmu, and you study in Jimei-Nuzhong, you know what? Nearby. But they belong to the same district, you know. We don't use really district formation. When we use that, many argued that would put the price to buy apartment near Jianzhong or Beinu much higher than before, because we want to live in a nearby in order to enter the high school. So at least we put the whole Taipei, 3 million population, one district. It's a joke, but in reality, yeah, but it is totally a joke. So in such a way, the competition is very severe, very serious. And how the competition goes? Because you have just A and B and C, you cannot tell from which one is better than the other one. I can get all 5 display A, and such students would occupy 10 Jianzhong and Beinu, or 20. They are too much, the better students. So we put A plus. So make it complicated and much more complicated. But many argued, why do we still keep A and B and C? Just as the Taipei government, the Taipei city government, the formal government has already decided to put it not A and B and C, but in tens scaling. You are of the 10%, top 10%, or the middle 10%, or the bottom 10%. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. This is reasonable, yeah? And you can tell which one has the much more scores, yeah? Originally, not tens, but percentages. You have already. Of your age, you are of percentage. Your 基测 percentage. Yeah. 70s, 80s, 99 over 59. You are of percentages. Okay, percentages, you know, when you want to go to the best valued high school, you must have 99 or 98. And when you have 75, you enter this, this high school. And you have 60, you enter this high school. We all knew that. But A and B and C is very confused and very illogical. And now they talk about, okay, we don't go back to percentages, but we go back, we invent the tens scaling system. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. But the ministries refused to accept that. Refused. So the mayor, Ke Wen-je, was very angry at the minister. And according to a newspaper, he shouted to the minister. He shouted at the minister, look, all the parents would gather before my gate or your gate to protest. Why the ministry refused to accept the much more reasonable test theory? Because it is not more examination free. You know? You cannot tell the kid that he did not have any clothes on him. You cannot tell the kid. A and B and C is the vest mask. If the ministry abandoned that, it could not longer be argued as examination free. So all the plus means it's just technical little problems. When you still here by besides A and B and C, it is very curiously argued as examination free. So that's the problem. Okay. So, and since we have two persons in our whole course did not present her or his part here, so I just as best time, I would like to give you two choices. Maybe you are not going to find, but you have just four. So idea, goal, and virgins, and here practice, and here program, and here just as the changes and disputes. So if your comrade comes back and you choose the 5 parts structure and you keep going on, and if he did not come back, does. If he does not come back, and you maybe choose this one. And don't worry, the first part is still 2 to 5 pages. It means that you can separate the idea and not to, you can tell the story shorter and to put them together. But I think the two parts is the main part, must be have the half of it. Just as I have talked to the formal multiculturalism team. So, and I would like to remember, okay, now it's after 12, okay, in Chinese. 好，那个签到单现在到哪里？都签完了吗？这边都签了 ，OK。好，那个我们下礼拜的时候，就是因为现在就讲完了，全部都讲完了，那所以给你们的建议，那你们就还有2个礼拜的时间去把它完成一个2页到5页，然后整个结构是全组的，然后每个人自己写字，当然自己写都占比较重嘛，不过全组当然会考量一下这样子。那还有就是说，那个下个礼拜的时候，我就是会去做一些补充，那跟我们之前讲过的一些补充有点类似。那有一些一直都没有机会，因为一直在前面一半都在赶进度，后面一半都在评论，然后跟你说怎么样做这个报告，所以其实有很多有趣的东西还没有机会来讨论的。下礼拜就可以放轻松学一些这些东西。如果下礼拜学的东西对于你写报告有帮助的话，就可以马上把它写进去。然后最后一个礼拜，那我们就在那最后一个礼拜干嘛呢？最后一个礼拜就交报告，把它印出来，然后带过来，电子档上传。然后那个，对，我现在就开一个作业档，让你们电子档上传。然后书面档的话，刚印出来要带着，电子档是给学校，不是给我的，你们要印出来。OK， 然后那个，所以那个书面档带过来。然后最后一节课的时候，大家就放轻松，一边聊聊天，然后你们要吃点心啊，喝茶、喝咖啡，你想带什么就自己带过来。OK， 然后呢，有用说，老师聊天可以用中文吗？好了，这段关掉可以。